your teen just slammed the door again. Not long ago, they used to crawl into your bed and tell you everything. Now you're lucky if you get a shrug, a grunt, or half an answer before they disappear behind that door. And that's what scares parents most. Because this usually doesn't happen all at once. There's no warning sign, no moment where someone tells you, this is where your teen stops trusting you. One day it was, can I stay with you a little longer? Now it's, get out of my room. Something changed. And the hardest part is, you may not even know when it happened. In this video, we're going to break down 7 parenting mistakes that make teens stop talking and what to do instead if you want to rebuild trust before that distance becomes the new normal. Before we get into the 7 mistakes, here's something a lot of parents need to hear. When teens stop talking, it doesn't always mean they've stopped caring. A lot of the time, it means they've stopped feeling safe enough to be fully honest. And that shift usually doesn't come from one huge blow-up. It comes from small moments. Moments that quietly teach your teen, talking about this won't help. I'm better off keeping this to myself. It's safer to stay quiet. So as we go through these mistakes, don't listen for guilt. Listen for patterns. Because once you see the pattern, you can change it. Mistake Hassan, reacting before understanding. The first mistake is reacting before understanding. Your teen says something hard. Maybe they messed up. Maybe they lied. Maybe they're telling you something you really did not want to hear. And before they can finish, your face changes. Your tone sharpens. The questions start sounding more like accusations than curiosity. From your side, that may feel like concern. From your teen side, it often feels like danger. And when honesty feels dangerous, teens usually do not become more honest. They become more careful. They leave things out. They soften the truth. They give you the version least likely to trigger you. And after enough of those moments, they stop bringing you much at all. Because what they learn is simple. If I tell the truth, I lose emotional safety. What to do instead? Slow the moment down. Your first job is not to correct everything in the first 10 seconds. Your first job is to keep the conversation open long enough to understand what is actually going on. Try this instead. Okay, tell me the whole thing. I'm glad you told me. I need a second, but I want to understand first. Help me see what happened from your side. You can still correct. You can still set boundaries. But if you want a teen who keeps talking, understanding has to come before the lecture. And sometimes teens stop talking long before a parent ever raises their voice. Mistake #2, turning every conversation into a lesson. Some parents think communication is happening because there's a lot of talking. But if every conversation turns into advice, correction, or a life lesson, your teen may stop experiencing you as a safe place and start experiencing you as a constant evaluator. That changes everything. Because now, every time your teen starts to open up, they're already bracing for the same pattern. They say something hard. You jump in. You explain what they should have done. And suddenly the conversation becomes a speech. After a while, your teen starts thinking, do I want support right now or another lesson? And once they already know the answer, silence starts feeling easier. What to do instead? Ask yourself one question. Does my teen need guidance right now? Or do they need room? Because a teen who feels heard now is often much more open to guidance later. Try this instead. Do you want advice? Or do you want me to just listen? That sounds really frustrating. What part of that bothered you the most? Do you want help solving it, or do you just need to get it out? Sometimes the fastest way to lose communication is to rush into fixing. And sometimes the fastest way to keep communication is to stop trying to fix everything immediately. And it gets worse when your teen starts associating your attention with pressure. Mistake #3, only showing up when something is wrong. If the only time you go deep with your teen is when they're in trouble, behind in school, hiding something, or making a bad choice, your relationship can quietly start revolving around correction. And once that happens, your teen starts connecting your attention with stress. They learn. When mom wants to talk, something's wrong. When dad gets serious, I'm probably in trouble. If I'm honest, this is going to become a problem. That is a huge shift, because now you're not just a parent in their mind. You're a stress signal. And when a teen starts associating your attention with pressure, they stop bringing you things early. They wait. They hide. They downplay. They act fine. Not because they do not need you, but because being noticed no longer feels safe. What to do instead? Build connection when nothing is wrong. Do not make correction the main language of your relationship. Trust grows in ordinary moments. Car rides, kitchen conversations, jokes, random check-ins, 5 quiet minutes at the end of what was the weirdest part of your day? What made you laugh today? You don't have to tell me something serious. I just like hearing about your world. Want company or want space? Those moments may look small. They are not, because if your teen only hears from you when something is wrong, they learn to avoid you. If they feel you with them when nothing is wrong, they're much more likely to come to you when something is. And once teens stop feeling emotionally safe, even small moments can shut them down. Mistake #4, dismissing feelings because they seem small to you. This one is easy for parents to miss, because from an adult point of view, a lot of teen problems can look small. A bad grade, a friend being weird, getting left out, a breakup that only lasted 3 weeks. To an adult, it may seem minor, but to your teen, that moment may feel enormous. And if your response is, "That's not a big deal," you're overreacting. You'll get over it. The lesson your teen learns is not, "My parent is helping me calm down." It's, "My feelings are too much here. This house has room for my behavior, but not my emotions." And when teens feel emotionally dismissed, they usually do not become more resilient. They become more private. They stop bringing you the vulnerable part. They show you the edited version, or nothing at all. What to do instead? Validate first. Perspective can come later. Validation does not mean agreeing with everything. It means your teen's inner experience matters. Try this instead. "I can see why that got to you. That makes sense. I get why you feel that way. You don't sound dramatic. You sound hurt. Do you want comfort right now or help figuring it out?" Because once a teen feels less judged, they stop defending themselves. And once they stop defending themselves, real conversation can begin. And now we get to one of the biggest trust breakers of all. Mistake #5, crossing privacy without building trust. A lot of parents cross privacy because they are scared. They check the phone, read the messages, search the room, push for answers at the wrong time. And sometimes that fear is real. Sometimes a parent truly is worried about safety. But when privacy gets crossed constantly, unpredictably, or without honest communication, many teens do not think, "My parent is protecting me." They think, "I need to hide better." That distinction matters. Because once your teen starts seeing you as someone they need to manage, trust starts collapsing. And when trust collapses, openness usually goes with it. What to do instead? Do not parent from panic. Parent from clarity. Your teen needs to know 2 things at the same time. My parent respects me. My parent will step in when safety really matters. Try this instead. I want to respect your privacy, and I also have a responsibility to keep you safe. Here's where I give you space, and here's where I will step in. I don't want to surprise, monitor you. I want us to be clear. My goal is not control. My goal is trust and safety. Predictable limits may feel frustrating, but random suspicion feels personal. And sometimes the deepest damage is not just about control. It's about love feeling conditional. Mistake #6, making love feel conditional. Most parents would never say, "I only love you when you do well." But teens can still feel that message. They feel it when warmth disappears after mistakes, when the house gets cold after a bad grade, when your tone changes the second they disappoint you, when they only get your best attention through achievement, obedience, or being easy to deal with. And over time, that creates a dangerous belief. The messy parts of me are not welcome here. I can be loved, but only if I stay manageable. That belief changes what your teen brings you. They stop bringing confusion. They stop bringing failure. They stop bringing the unfinished, embarrassing, or hard parts of life. Because they start thinking love has to be earned before honesty is allowed. What to do instead? Separate behavior from belonging. Yes, your teen may need consequences. Yes, behavior matters. But your correction should never make them question whether they still matter to you. Try this instead. I'm not okay with what happened, but I'm still with you. We need to deal with this, and I still love you. You are not the problem. This behavior is the problem. Nothing about this conversation changes the fact that you matter to me. A teen who feels secure in your love is much more likely to tell you the truth. A teen who feels they must earn connection will usually hide the parts of themselves they fear you will reject. And now we get to the mistake that keeps all the others alive. Mistake #7, wanting trust back without changing the pattern. This may be the hardest one to hear. A lot of parents want their teen to open up again, but the pattern at home never really changes. Same tone, same defensiveness, same interruptions, same overreaction, same habit of listening to correct instead of listening to understand. And teens notice that. So even if you have one emotional conversation, even if you say, "You can tell me anything," your teen is still going to believe the pattern more than the speech. That is how trust works. Trust rarely comes back because of one big talk. It comes back because your teen starts having a different experience of you again and again and again. What to do instead? Stop aiming for one perfect conversation. Start building a different pattern. Trust comes back through repetition. Calmer responses, fewer assumptions, more listening, clearer boundaries, honest apologies, emotional steadiness, showing up consistently. Try this instead. Apologize when you overreact. Come back and repair after a bad conversation. Ask before assuming. Check in without interrogating. Keep your word. Notice the moments your teen does open up and handle them with care. And if you've already made some of these mistakes, that does not mean it's too late. A lot of teens are not waiting for a perfect parent. They're waiting for a parent who can notice the damage, stop defending it, and start showing up differently. So, if your teen has been talking less lately, the biggest mistake is assuming the problem is just attitude. Sometimes the real problem is this. Somewhere along the way, honesty stopped feeling safe. Not always because you meant to hurt them. Not always because you didn't love them. But because in small everyday moments, your teen may have learned, I'll be judged, I'll be lectured, I'll be misunderstood. It's easier to keep this to myself. And once that happens, silence starts feeling safer than connection. But here's the good news. Trust is fragile, but it's also rebuildable. Not through one perfect speech, not through forcing deeper conversations, and not by demanding that your teen open up again before you've changed what opening up feels like. Trust starts coming back when your teen begins to experience something different from you. Accalmie réponse. Less fixing, more listening, more respect, more consistency, more moments where they feel, I can be honest here and still be safe. That's where real change starts. So, if you want your teen to talk more, do not focus only on getting more words out of them. Focus on becoming a safer place for the truth. Because most teens do not need perfect parents. They need parents who can notice the pattern, repair the damage, and keep showing up differently. And sometimes that shift starts with something very small. A better response, a softer tone, a real apology. One conversation where your teen feels understood before they feel corrected. That may not look dramatic, but those are often the moments that rebuild trust. If this video helped you understand why teens stop talking and what to do instead, subscribe to Parenting Tips HM for more practical parenting videos that help you understand the problem, understand the solution, and apply it in everyday life. I'm Emma Miller, and I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think makes a teen feel safest opening up to a parent?